There is a meeting that happens inside almost every company that deploys a voice agent for the first time. It usually happens about 6 to 8 weeks after go live. The initial excitement has settled. The system is working. Calls are being handled. And then, someone raises their hand and asks a question that nobody prepared for. Who owns this? Not technically, not contractually, but operationally. Who decides what the agent says when a caller asks something unexpected? Who decides whether the tone is right? Who approves a script change? Who is responsible when a call goes wrong? And in that meeting, you usually see something interesting. Everyone looks at someone else. What you're watching right now is an AI clone, a digital version of me, Ronald, founder of Datawonder. We build AI automation and voice agent systems for real businesses, insurance companies, accounting firms, medical clinics, organizations where the volume of routine communication is high, the stakes are real, and the cost of inefficiency compounds over time. I use AI every single day, not as a concept, but as a working tool. This channel exists because most AI content doesn't reflect what actually happens inside companies. So that's what we cover here. If you want calm, grounded analysis of AI in business, no hype, no tutorials, no speculation, consider subscribing. That's all this channel does. Now, back to that meeting. The question of ownership over a synthetic voice agent sounds administrative. It isn't. It's one of the most revealing stress tests a company can run on its own internal structure. Because a voice agent is not just a technology deployment, it is a communication policy decision. And most companies have never had to make that decision explicitly before. When a human employee answers the phone, communication policy is implicit. It lives in training, in culture, in the judgment of the individual. Nobody writes a document that says, if a client sounds frustrated, lower your tone and slow down. A good employee just does it. A voice agent cannot. Every behavior has to be specified. Every edge case has to be anticipated and handled. Every word and every response is a choice that someone made or failed to make deliberately. That's the part companies underestimate. They think deploying a voice agent is an IT project or an operations project. In reality, it's a cross-functional communication audit that nobody agreed to run. Consider what actually has to be decided before a voice agent can function properly. The script, who writes it, who reviews it, who approves it. The escalation logic, when does the agent transfer to a human and under what conditions? The persona, is it formal, how warm, how direct? The fallback behavior, what happens when the agent doesn't understand? The compliance layer, especially in regulated industries. What can and cannot be said, and under what circumstances? Each of those decisions touches a different part of the business. Legal, compliance, customer experience, operations, IT. And in most organizations, none of those departments have a clear mandate to lead. So the voice agent sits in a structural gap, technically deployed, operationally unclaimed. If you think this sounds familiar, you're probably not wrong. Drop a comment below and tell me where the ownership question ended up landing in your organization. Because the answers I hear from clients are remarkably consistent and rarely what you'd expect. Here's what typically happens. Because no single department owns the voice agent, decisions get made informally. A script change gets pushed through because someone in operations noticed a problem. Legal reviews it 3 weeks later and flags an issue. The fix gets debated across email threads. Nothing gets updated for another month. In the meantime, the agent is having thousands of conversations with real clients. This is not a hypothetical. This is what organizational friction looks like in practice, when AI is deployed into an environment that hasn't restructured around it. And here's where it gets more interesting. The second-order effect that most deployments don't see coming. When a voice agent handles a high volume of calls, it starts generating data at a scale that human agents never could. Every call is logged. Every phrase is trackable. Every escalation point is measurable. Suddenly, the organization has access to a level of communication intelligence it has never had before. But nobody is reading it. Not because the data isn't valuable, because there is no one whose job it is to read it. The voice agent sits in operations. The data insights would be useful to marketing, to product, to customer experience, to management. But there is no defined path from the data to the decision maker who would act on it. So, it accumulates. And the company is running a highly efficient communication layer that is simultaneously producing a rich intelligence asset and getting zero strategic value from it. This is the pattern I see repeatedly.
I'd be happy to help you make a reservation at restaurant 1487. Perfect, Ronald. So dinner tomorrow, Saturday the 8th of November at 19 o'clock, 7 in the evening. How many people will be joining you? Let me book that reservation for you now. Wonderful, Ronald. Your reservation is confirmed. I've booked a table for Ronald on Saturday the 8th of November at 19 o'clock for 4 people at restaurant 1487.
The efficiency gain from the voice agent is real and measurable. The strategic upside from the data it generates goes almost entirely unrealized. Not because it's hard to access, because the organization hasn't built the internal structure to receive it. That structural gap is the hidden organizational impact. If you're finding this useful, a like helps this content reach people who would actually benefit from it. Now, there is a related dynamic that plays out specifically in companies with high client sensitivity. Insurance, healthcare, financial services. These are industries where clients have developed expectations about the quality of human interaction. The stakes of a call are often high. The emotional weight of the conversation can be significant. In these environments, resistance to voice agents runs deep. Not from leadership. Usually, leadership sees the business case quickly. The resistance comes from frontline staff, from account managers, from people who have spent years building client relationships and who see the voice agent as a threat to the quality of those relationships. What actually happens, and this is based on what we observe in deployments, not what gets presented in pitch decks, is that the voice agent removes the routine layer of communication. The appointment confirmations, the document reminders, the policy renewal follow-ups, the calls that a skilled account manager was handling but didn't need to be. When those calls are automated, the account manager's calendar opens up. They have more time for the conversations that actually require their judgment. But here's the organizational challenge. That freed up time is invisible unless it's directed somewhere. If management doesn't actively redirect it, it gets absorbed back into low-value work, or it creates the perception that the team has less to do, which triggers a different kind of organizational tension. The voice agent created capacity, but capacity without deployment is not efficient. It's just unused space. The companies that capture real value from this are the ones that answer a question before they deploy. If this agent handles X calls per month, what do we want our people doing with that time instead? The companies that don't answer that question first often find themselves 6 months later wondering why the efficiency gains didn't translate into better outcomes. This is the lens that matters when evaluating a voice agent deployment, not just what it does, what it changes inside the organization that has to absorb it. Every AI system introduced into a business creates a new set of conditions that the business then has to operate inside. The voice agent answers calls. That's the obvious effect. The less obvious effects are the ownership gaps it exposes, the data it generates that nobody is reading, the capacity it creates that may or may not get redirected, and the structural tensions it surfaces between departments that were never forced to coordinate before. None of those are problems with the technology. They are organizational problems that the technology makes visible. The takeaway is not that voice agents are complicated to deploy. They are not. The takeaway is that deploying them without thinking through the organizational absorption is where most of the value gets left behind. The businesses that do this well are the ones that treat a voice agent deployment as an operational design project, not just a technology implementation. Who owns it? Who maintains it? Who reads the data? What happens to the time it frees up? Those questions are not technical. They're management decisions, and they determine almost entirely whether the deployment delivers on its potential. That's the hidden impact, not in the system, in the structure around it. If you're working through any of this inside your own organization, I genuinely like to hear where the friction is showing up. Drop it in the comments. And if you want to explore what a voice agent deployment could look like for your business, specifically the structure, the ownership model, the realistic outcomes, you can book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.